I didn't even know there was a goodbye dinner until someone tagged me in a photo on Facebook. There it was, the whole family gathered around the long oak table in my parents' dining room. My sister Jenna in the center, her blonde hair in messy waves, laughing as she held a champagne flute. My parents flanking her, beaming like she'd just graduated from NASA. Her husband Brian smiling tightly, and Ellie and Max, her two kids, sitting cross-legged on the floor with paper crowns on their heads. The caption read, "One last meal in the old house before the freedom journey begins." So proud of Jenna for chasing her dream, I blinked. I wasn't in the photo. I wasn't in any of them. Later, I found out my mom had texted me an invite the night before, a single message buried between grocery coupons and a forwarded meme saying something like, "If you're free tomorrow, swing by." I hadn't been free. I had a late client meeting and no idea they were throwing a full dinner party to honor Jenna's big leap into van life. A leap, by the way, funded by selling the house I had helped her keep more than once. When I asked about it, my mother said, "We assumed you were too busy. You're always working." I didn't argue. I'd grown up in the shadow of those assumptions. But a week later, when I stopped by their house to drop off some paperwork my dad had asked me to review his Medicare forms, I noticed the goodbye photo framed in the hallway. They'd blown it up, enlarged it, glossy print, hung at eye level. I stared at it for a long minute. Not because I expected to see myself, I knew I wasn't in it, but because of where the photo had been taken. My mother's dining room has 10 chairs, always has. But that night in the picture, there were 11 people, and one of them was sitting in a folding chair tucked in next to the end of the table between the trash can and the sideboard. That was where they'd saved a seat for me. Not that I ever showed up. Maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe someone just grabbed an extra chair at the last minute. But maybe it was a metaphor. Maybe I'd been downgraded, folded out of frame. When I left, my dad asked if I'd help Jenna review some of the van paperwork she was trying to register her converted Mercedes Sprinter as a tiny home on wheels. I said I had back-to-back meetings all week. He just nodded. No pushback, no follow-up. That folding chair lingered in my mind long after the conversation ended. It creaked a little in the photo, like it knew it didn't belong. And I couldn't stop wondering, when did I stop being invited and start being expected? It didn't happen all at once. That's the thing about being erased. It's rarely a single moment. More often, it's slow, subtle, kind. It comes disguised as you're so responsible or you've got it all figured out. At first, I thought I was being respected. Later, I realized I was being used. When Jenna and I were kids, she was the light, chaotic radiant, the one who walked barefoot through our neighborhood in winter singing. I was the one who followed behind her, picking up the mittens she dropped. By age 13, I was babysitting for half the block. At 17, I took a part-time job after school to start saving for college. My parents called me our little rock. I thought it was love. I know now it was weight. Jenna coasted. She quit jobs the way some people change phone cases. There was always a new dream yoga instructor, wedding photographer, handmade soap shop. When she got a scholarship to an art college in Colorado and left halfway through sophomore year to follow a guy on tour with a jam band, our parents said, "She's just finding herself." The tuition refund didn't cover the credit card debt. I paid it off. Quietly. I didn't mean to start keeping track, but I did. When her first apartment lease fell through, I co-signed the next one. When she got married and ran out of money a month before the wedding, I paid for the photographer and the deposit on the venue. I told myself it was a gift. I told myself she would settle down. I told myself it would be the last time. It never was. When Ellie was born, I opened a savings account in her name. I did the same for Max, even though Jenna rolled her eyes when I mentioned compound interest. "You always think too far ahead, Rach," she said once. "That's how we end up stuck." Maybe. But I always believed children deserved a parachute even if their parents didn't pack one. The worst part wasn't the money. It was how invisible I was in the story Jenna told about her life. When she posted a birthday collage for Ellie last year, there were 10 photos. Balloons, cupcakes, handmade decorations. Caption, "Thank you to everyone who made this day so special." She tagged our parents, her in-laws, her yoga friend, not me. That year, I'd stayed up late the night before building the gift that Ellie still played with every morning, a wooden art table with her name carved across the front. I didn't say anything. It felt petty, but something inside me dimmed. The next month, my mom casually mentioned that Jenna told her I offered to cover the extra van conversion costs, the same van they later drove into the Nevada desert. I hadn't offered. I'd said I could look at their budget if needed. But by the time the words reached my mother, I'd become a donor again. Like always. I wasn't a sister anymore. I was an open tab with no PIN required. I never told them what it cost me financially or otherwise. I just adjusted, reduced my own travel plans, skipped one holiday bonus, delayed upgrading my roof. They never asked. It's funny. They always said Jenna was the dreamer, but I'm the one who kept believing she'd change. And now I can't help but wonder, how many times did I say yes? Just so they'd stop asking. The first time I noticed it, I thought it was a mistake. Jenna had posted a carousel of photos their last night in the house the first morning in the van, Ellie brushing her teeth beside a bamboo-paneled sink. The caption read, "We left behind everything we didn't need. Minimalism is liberation." I scrolled through the images. 10 in total. My parents, her in-laws, even the cat, not me. I told myself I hadn't made the cut, but it kept happening. Campgrounds, bonfires, yoga at sunset, the captions, #vanlife, #family first, #home is where you park it. One night I searched my name. Nothing, not tagged, not mentioned, not even in the goodbye album my mom posted to Facebook, 46 photos she printed and mailed to relatives. That one stung, because I'd taken 3 of them. I was the one holding Ellie while Jenna and Brian posed in matching t-shirts. I'd cropped the backgrounds, adjusted the lighting, emailed them all in high res, but somehow I didn't exist in the version they kept. I brought it up once gently. I didn't see any of the photos I sent in the print set. My mom hesitated, then smiled. "Oh, honey, we wanted to focus on the journey. You're not going with them." I nodded. Of course. Why show the person who held the ladder when the story only celebrates the one who climbed? Later that night, I opened our family's shared cloud album. The folder was renamed The Journey Begins. Some photos were gone. I searched for the ones I'd uploaded Ellie's 2nd birthday, Max's first day at preschool. Gone. Folder last modified by Jenna Moore. She hadn't just left town. She'd started curating a version of her life where I didn't fit. I didn't react, didn't text, didn't ask for credit. But I did respond in my way. I made the bed in my guest room, smoothed the sheets, set a book by the window, lit a candle. Then I walked out. The next morning, I posted a single photo light through the guest room door. No faces. Just stillness. Caption reserved for peace. Not rescue. They didn't reply. But I got a voicemail from my mom, cheerful but clipped. A text from Jenna. "Everything all right? You seem distant." And maybe I was. Or maybe I'd just stopped orbiting their story and started writing mine. I didn't announce it. No fight, no message that said I need space. Just small exits one by one. First, I muted the family group chat. Not left, just muted. Then I archived the cloud photo album and created a private one just for me. No filters. No captions. Just Ellie asleep on my shoulder. Max wearing mismatched socks. Unshared. Undisrupted. I changed the lock on my guest room door. Not because I thought anyone would walk in, but because I needed the symbol. I dropped the key in a drawer and closed it without a sound. One afternoon, I opened the mail and found a greeting card from my mother, the kind with pastel script that says, "Family is everything." Inside was a printed photo of Jenna standing at the edge of a canyon arms wide. The kids were in the background half-turned, looking away. Below, my mom had written, "Look at that joy. Jenna says this is the best decision they've ever made." I stared at the photo longer than I expected. Then I slipped it into the same drawer as the key, and closed it again. That night I posted another photo, just the hallway outside the locked guest room. Soft light spilling across hardwood, no caption. The next day, a voicemail from my dad. Just checking in. You've seemed a little quiet. A meme from Jenna about Mercury in retrograde. A half-hearted emoji from my mom. I didn't answer, not because I was angry, but because stillness had finally arrived, and for once, I didn't need to explain it. I started rising earlier, making slow coffee, reading again. I stopped refreshing Jenna's feed, stopped waiting for the next ask, the next silent expectation that I'd say yes. And in that silence, something changed. Because when you stop making noise, that's when people start noticing the echo. By week 3, the tone shifted, voicemails got sharper. Rachel, is something wrong? Your sister says you're being distant. I wanted to say, nothing is wrong. That's the point. No confrontation, no demand, just one closed door, one quiet room, one absence they couldn't fill with noise. If you've ever pulled away so gently they didn't see you leave, you understand. It's not always the slammed doors they remember. Sometimes it's the ones that never opened again. It started with the van. Jenna called it the Freedom Vessel. A custom Mercedes Sprinter retrofitted with bamboo paneling, solar panels, a composting toilet, and cabinets made from reclaimed barnwood she found on Pinterest. It was beautiful, I'll admit. Expensive, too. But beauty doesn't run on diesel. By week 6 of their trip, the social media posts started to shift. The bright filters dulled. The captions turned defensive. Instead of inspirational quotes about escaping the matrix, Jenna was writing things like, "Van life isn't always pretty, but it's real." I could see the tension, not just in the words, but in the photos. The kids were thinner, the backgrounds bleaker. In one post, Ellie was sitting on the van floor eating from a paper bowl. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. My parents brushed it off. "They're adjusting," my mom said. "All new beginnings are bumpy," said my dad. I didn't argue. I just waited. The call came on a Thursday night. My phone buzzed at 11:42 p.m. I answered on instinct, half asleep. Rachel, Jenna said breathless, "We're stuck." The van had broken down somewhere in Nevada. Not just a tire, not a battery. The transmission. Total failure. Estimated repair $12,000. She was crying. "We don't have that kind of money," she said. "We used our cushion to get here. Campgrounds cost more than we thought. Gas, too." She didn't say it directly, but the implication hung there like smoke. They needed a rescue. I didn't say anything. The silence made her nervous. "You've got savings," she added, her voice tightening. "I know you do. I'm not asking for a gift, just a loan." I sat up slowly, heart pounding. "Where are you sleeping?" I asked. "A motel, Sunset Inn. It's $40 a night, but—" She broke off. I heard Max coughing in the background. "I'll help you look at options," I said. "Create a plan. See what resources are available locally." She exhaled, sharp and defensive. "We don't need your financial advisor lecture. We need help." Then she hung up. The next day, she posted a photo of a parking lot at dusk. The caption read, "Some people will never understand the value of freedom over comfort. Their loss." That night, my parents called me. "Rachel," my mom said, "they're stranded, and we've already sent everything we could. We were hoping maybe you'd let them stay with you, just until they get back on their feet." I didn't respond. She continued, "They can sleep in the guest room. The kids can share your office. It's only temporary." My dad jumped in. "They'd be arriving Saturday. Jenna says they'll drive straight through." I blinked. "You already told her she could come." The pause that followed was everything. "We might have implied." I ended the call quietly before I said something I couldn't take back. That night, I didn't post anything. But I did one thing. I opened my laptop and created a Zoom invite titled Emergency Family Discussion. Mandatory. The call was scheduled for Friday. One day before Jenna would arrive at my door, a door no one asked permission to walk through. Friday came. One by one, the video squares filled in. My parents on their floral love seat. Brian in what looked like a motel bathroom. Jenna, hair pulled back, face set in entitlement. The kids absent. I didn't waste time. "This isn't happening," I said calmly. "You're not moving in." Jenna scoffed. "You have 2 bedrooms and an office." "What's the problem?" I looked straight at her. The problem is, you made plans with my space, my money, and my time without ever asking if I was willing. My mother tried to interject. Rachel, you've always been the steady one. Isn't that what family does? No, I said. Family doesn't mean ignoring every consequence and then dropping the wreckage at someone else's door. Jenna rolled her eyes. But then something I didn't expect. Brian shifted forward on his screen, cleared his throat. She's right, he said. Everyone froze. What? Jenna snapped. Brian didn't look at her. I've been trying to hold it together, but the truth is, this was a disaster from day one. You spent money we didn't have. You ignored every warning. You gambled our kids' safety on an Instagram dream. Don't do this, Jenna whispered, but he didn't stop. Ellie cries at night. Max has nightmares. They're tired, hungry, confused, and you're still pretending it's fine. He turned to me. Rachel, thank you for trying to stop it before it got this far. It was the first time someone in the family had ever thanked me not for fixing something but for telling the truth. If you've ever watched someone burn everything down and then hand you the ashes, you know the difference between rescuing and being wrecked alongside them. And sometimes the only way to keep standing is to refuse to be the floor they fall onto. The day after the call, no one reached out. For 24 hours, it was blissfully silent, until my dad's number flashed on my screen. Your mother's upset, he opened. So is Jenna. I waited. They're not mad about what you said, he continued. They're just surprised at how you said it. I almost laughed. You mean directly? He sighed. Look, we're not here to fight. But the kids, Rachel, they need stability. I agree, I said. That's why I won't let them stay here. You have the space he pressed, and the means. You keep confusing having with owing. He was quiet for a moment. Then, more gently, 3 months, just to regroup. And then, what I asked. He didn't answer. That night, I received an email from my mom. No greeting, no sign-off, just blocks of justification. She wrote about Jenna's struggles, about how I'd always been the strong one. She said it must be nice to have a quiet condo all to myself. Then one line struck like a slap. Some of us weren't built for stability. Some of us need more, like the life I built was less. I didn't reply. But later that night, a new message appeared from Brian. I know you probably want nothing to do with us, but if you're willing to talk not about Jenna, about the kids, I'd be grateful. I don't want to keep failing them. We talked the next evening. Motel Wi-Fi. Dim light, honest words. He said they had 3 nights left at the motel. Jenna still believed the universe would sort it out. Ellie had asked to go back to her old school. Not whining, just quietly, hopefully. Brian looked at me and said, This journey is over, but I don't know how to tell her that without breaking everything. I looked at him. You don't have to fix her, I said. Just protect your kids. He nodded, eyes wet. That's when the plan began. Not a rescue, not a sacrifice, not a guest room, a real solution. If you've ever been asked to clean up a mess they told you wasn't coming, you know this truth. Sometimes love isn't saying yes. I didn't tell anyone I was helping Brian. Not Jenna, not my parents, not the group chat I hadn't checked in weeks. In quiet calls and emails, we built a plan, a 2-bedroom apartment near a public school. Modest, safe, move-in ready. The landlord agreed to overlook their credit if we paid a little extra up front. I wired the deposit, not as a favor to Jenna, for Ellie, for Max. Brian committed to the job. He enrolled the kids himself, started therapy applications through the district. Still, I told no one. Let them think I was being cold. It was easier than explaining what it cost to always be warm. A week later, Jenna called. No hello. Mom says you're ignoring everyone. I didn't answer. She says you refused to help. Still nothing. You really think you're better than us? I paused, then said evenly, No. I think I've finally stopped proving I deserve a seat at a table that never had a place for me. She went silent. The next day, my mom left a voicemail. If you turn your back on your sister now, don't expect this family to ever look at you the same again. I didn't call back. Instead, I took out a blank sheet of paper and wrote one sentence I was always here. You just lived easier when I disappeared. I folded it, slid it into the drawer with the guest room key, closed it. A few days later, Brian sent a photo Ellie in her new room. Pajamas. A book in her lap. Not perfect, but steady. There was a door behind her, open, light coming through. No hashtags, no captions. Just stillness. And I thought, after all these years of being the safety net, this time I didn't catch them. I just stepped out of the way. And somehow they learned how to land. If you've ever been called selfish for protecting your space, just remember, stillness isn't cruelty. It's the sound boundaries make when they're finally respected. Spring came slowly that year. Snow melted along the edges of sidewalks outside my condo. The lake, once steel gray and restless, settled into soft ripples that sparkled in the morning light. Everything felt a little quieter, not lonely, just quieter. Jenna didn't call again, not for weeks. But one afternoon, I received a letter. Real paper, no return address. Inside was a folded piece of notebook paper torn at the edge. On it, drawn in crayon, was a child's sketch, two stick figures standing in front of a square house. A tiny rectangle labeled Room, the sun in the corner, a tree with pink scribbles. At the bottom, in shaky handwriting, one sentence. This is our new home. Signed, Ellie. I stared at it for a long time, not because it was surprising, but because for the first time, no one had asked me for anything. They just showed me what they'd finally chosen. I didn't write back. I didn't frame it. Didn't hang it on the fridge. I slid it into the drawer with the key, the same key I had once held onto for hope, for obligation, for family. Then I closed the drawer and left it closed. Weeks passed. My parents didn't call. I saw my mother post a birthday photo of Jenna, just the two of them eating lunch at a cafe, pretending nothing had ever cracked. I didn't like the photo. I didn't comment, but I didn't feel forgotten. I felt finished. Later that spring, I visited Ellie and Max. I flew out to see them not as a savior, not as a fallback plan, just as Rachel, Aunt Rachel. We went to the park, ate grilled cheese on paper plates. Max told me about his dinosaur club at school. Ellie showed me a spelling test she got 100% on. They looked happy, not picture perfect, just real. I didn't stay long, just long enough to remind them I was still here in the way that mattered. Before I left, Brian pulled me aside. He didn't say thank you. He didn't have to. He just nodded once and said, "We're going to be okay." And I believed him. On the plane ride home, I looked out the window as the ground dropped away, thinking about all the years I'd spent trying to be the steady one, the fixer, the invisible net that caught everyone else. This time, I hadn't caught them. I'd stepped back, and somehow they'd landed anyway. When I got home, the guest room was exactly as I'd left it, clean, still untouched. The bed was made, the book still by the window. One shaft of late sunlight stretched across the pillow. I didn't take a photo. I didn't post anything. I simply stood in the doorway and looked at that quiet, empty room. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I just felt done. If you've ever seen a child carry what the adults refused to, say, "I saw it." Not everyone did, but you did.